45 million ounces of gold are sitting right under a ridge in remote southwest Alaska, and nobody has ever mined a single one of them. If you fly over it today, there is absolutely nothing to see. Just endless tundra, scrubby black spruce, and a solitary gravel airstrip serving a tiny river village of about 100 people. This isn't a rumor, a prospector's tall tale, or a wild estimate. This ore body has been intensely drilled, measured, analyzed, and mapped for over 30 years. It has just never been touched. That makes it the largest intact, unmined gold deposit in the United States. There is enough gold trapped inside this single Alaskan hill to match a full decade of Nevada's entire statewide output. So, how does a treasure this colossal stay completely untouched for 117 years? And why did everything suddenly shift? Part 1. The Ghost on the Kuskokwim. The place has a name, Donlin Gold. It lies within the Kuskokwim Gold Belt, named for the winding creek that drains off the ridge and dumps into the Kuskokwim River 10 miles downstream. The nearest human settlement is Crooked Creek, a quiet community of roughly 100 residents perched right on the riverbank. There is no road to Donlin. There is no road to Crooked Creek. In fact, there are no roads to almost anywhere in this massive stretch of Alaska. In the dead of winter, the Kuskokwim freezes into a thick highway of ice, solid enough to drive semi-trucks on. In the summer, your only options are river barges and float planes. That radical geographic isolation is the very first reason this gold went untouched for so long. But it's certainly not the most interesting one. Back in 1909, the Klondike Gold Rush was effectively over, and Nome was completely overrun with desperate fortune seekers. The latecomers, the men who missed out on both rushes, headed into the vast interior looking for country that nobody had claimed yet. A few of them pushed up the Kuskokwim, a slow, murky brown river cutting through 600 miles of utter wilderness. Eventually, they found color in the creek gravel. Not a lot, but just enough to keep digging. One of those early prospectors was a man named Robert Donlin. The creek took his name, and eventually, so did everything sitting underneath it. What followed was 80 long years of almost complete silence. Small-time placer outfits worked the nearby stream beds with basic sluice boxes and shovels. Men froze, went dead broke, and drifted away. They were entirely correct about one thing. The creeks themselves were poor. But every single flake of gold they managed to pull out of Donlin Creek had originally washed down off the high ridge sitting right above them. The actual source was barely 2 miles away and 400 feet straight up. Yet for 8 decades, not a single miner walked uphill. Part 2. Locked inside the rock. To understand why they walked past it, you have to go back 70 million years. Deep beneath the Earth's crust, a massive body of magma pushed up into the Kuskokwim sedimentary layer, a dense stack of ancient mudstone and sandstone, and stopped just before reaching the surface. There was no volcano, no explosive eruption. It was simply massive sheets of molten rock forcing their way between layers of solid sediment like wet grout forced into cracked tile. The intense geological heat drove superheated, mineral-rich water charging through those fractures. That water carried dissolved gold. As the fluid gradually cooled, it dropped its heavy cargo into the surrounding stone. That is how the gold got there. But it doesn't explain how 4 generations of experienced, eagle-eyed miners walked directly across it without noticing. For that, you have to look at what Donlin Gold actually looks like. It took until the late 1980s for anyone to attempt the glaringly obvious. The logic wasn't complex. Gold sitting in a creek bed means gold originates in the bedrock uphill. It was the fundamental rule of prospecting, and it had sat completely ignored on this ridge since before the First World War. A crew working for a company called West Gold walked the drainages, systematically mapped the upper ridge, and took soil samples across the high ground. When the assays came back, the samples were hot. Not wildly spectacular at first glance, but showing persistent, rock-solid anomalies across an area far too massive to be a fluke. So, they brought in a full drill rig. Picture what that logistics effort takes in the Alaskan bush. The drill rig, heavy steel rods, diesel fuel, food supplies, camp equipment, and crew. Every ounce of it had to be hauled by barge up 200 miles of river, then dragged overland to a roadless ridge. The operating season is brutally short, and sinking a single drill hole costs serious money. Donlin Gold is what geologists refer to as refractory ore. The gold particles aren't shiny nuggets, delicate wires, or visible specks. They are microscopic, just a few microns across, smaller than a single human red blood cell, and chemically locked inside the crystal matrix of arsenopyrite and pyrite. It is literally fool's gold, with real gold held hostage inside its atomic lattice. You could pan the richest, highest grade ore at Donlin all day long and get absolutely zero gold in your pan. You could crush it, wash it, and run it over a shaking table. Still nothing. There is no free gold to shake loose. Extracting it requires an autoclave, a massive, high-pressure industrial pressure cooker that blasts the ore with extreme heat and pressure until the sulfide crystals physically break open. That technology didn't even exist commercially until the 1980s. The gold wasn't just hidden by the wilderness, it was chemically hidden inside the rock itself. Part 3. The core shed and the scale. If you actually travel to the site today and stand on top of that wind-swept ridge, there is no active mine. No towering headframes, no open pits, no roaring conveyor belts. All you'll find is a gravel pad, modular buildings, fuel storage drums, and a drill rig that operates during the short summer window before shutting down when the brutal winter sets in. The only physical proof on site that a massive fortune sits under your feet is the core shed. Inside that long wooden building, stacked floor to ceiling in neat wooden boxes, is the deposit itself. Hundreds of thousands of feet of solid rock pulled up in clean, inch-and-a-half cylinders. If you reach out and lift a single meter of the high-grade core out of its tray, you are holding several $1,000s worth of gold. Yet to your eyes, it just looks like a dirty, heavy gray fence post. That is what America's largest untouched gold deposit looks like up close, and it perfectly encapsulates the entire problem in a single image. Placer Dome took over the drilling in the 1990s. Nova Gold bought into the project in 2001. Then, in January 2006, Barrick Gold, the largest gold mining corporation on the planet, acquired Placer Dome for $10.4 billion and inherited Donlin along with it. Over the next 2 decades, the resource estimates soared higher and higher. Hundreds of thousands of ounces became millions, then tens of millions. Yet not a single commercial bar of gold ever left the property. Part 4. The multi-billion-dollar gridlock. So why is it still just a quiet hill in the tundra? Because to build it, you have to build an entire modern industrial civilization around it first. There is no road, no deep water port, and no power grid. The engineering master plan designed to fix those problems sounds like science fiction. A buried 316-mile natural gas pipeline cut from Cook Inlet, running straight over the rugged Alaska Range. A custom 227-megawatt power plant built at the mine site. A brand new river port facility cut directly into the bank of the Kuskokwim. An all-weather access road connecting that new port to the mine site. A fleet of specialized river barges hauling industrial supplies hundreds of miles upstream during the brief summer thaw. The price tag for all that infrastructure hits billions of dollars before a single ounce of gold is ever poured. For years, that was the endless narrative around Donlin. Too big, too remote, far too expensive, and the gold could wait in the ground. Then, everything suddenly exploded into motion. In June 2025, after 19 years of co-ownership, Barrick Gold sold its entire 50% stake in the project for $1 billion and walked away. Barrick had never fully committed to construction. The two corporate partners had been locked in a years-long deadlock over whether to pull the trigger. Nova Gold's chairman described it as a total operational impasse. Barrick decided to redirect its billions toward a massive copper-gold project in Pakistan instead. Then look at who stepped in to buy it. 40% went to Paulson Advisors, the firm led by billionaire John Paulson, the investor famous for making billions betting against the U.S. housing market before the 2008 crash. The remaining stake went to Nova Gold, elevating its ownership to a controlling 60%. Immediately, the capital started flowing. Engineering titan Fluor was brought in to lead the bankable feasibility study alongside 3 specialist engineering firms, backed by an aggressive budget exceeding $130 million. In January 2026, a major letter of intent was signed with Glenfarne to secure gas off the proposed Alaska LNG pipeline, solving the decade-long energy puzzle. Then, in July 2026, Nova Gold agreed to buy out Paulson entirely, consolidating 100% ownership of Donlin in a deal valuing the newly unified entity at approximately $4.2 billion. After 117 years of quiet waiting, 4 massive, game-changing corporate moves occurred back-to-back. So, let's lay it out plainly. What actually makes this America's undisputed largest untouched gold deposit? Largest is easily verifiable. With roughly 40 to 45 million ounces of gold at nearly double the global average open pit grade, nothing else in the United States matches its combination of raw scale and concentration. Untouched is the part that seems almost impossible. This isn't an underexplored prospect or an unverified discovery. It has been extensively cored, exhaustively assayed, and fully mapped for 37 years. Yet not a single commercial ounce has ever been taken out of the ground. It stayed this way because the gold was effectively hidden 3 separate times. 1. Hidden on the surface, covered under dense spruce and tundra with absolutely zero surface indication from the air. 2. Hidden inside the rock, locked microchemically inside sulfide crystals that humanity couldn't efficiently break open until the late 20th century. 3. Hidden in plain sight. Ask 100 people to name the largest unmined gold field in America, and almost no one will give you this name. And remarkably, the deposit is still getting bigger. The recent drill campaign put over 18,000 meters of fresh core holes deep into the ridge. The results returned astonishing intercepts running as high as 26 grams per ton, more than 10 times the deposit's already rich average grade. Even better for the project, the gold system remains completely open at depth. The drill holes stop while the rich mineralization is still plunging downward. The target geological trend runs for 5 full miles along that ridge, and everything measured so far comes from less than half of it. In 30 years of continuous exploration, the total gold estimate has been updated dozens of times, and it has never once gone down. If you fly over that ridge today, it looks virtually identical to how it looked to Robert Donlin back in 1909. Endless tundra, black spruce, a gravel airstrip, and 100 people living quietly down on the riverbank. Deep underneath that quiet landscape sits more gold than the legendary Klondike and Nome gold rushes produced combined. For 117 years, it sat in absolute silence. But today, the clock is ticking. Feasibility studies are finalizing, environmental court cases are reaching their verdicts, and corporate entities are aligning to finally cut this pit into the earth.